my name is Elizabeth Ombati. I am from Kenya, from Championing for Inclusive Communities in Kenya. I'm a woman with a psychosocial disability. I'm really, really happy to be a member of TCI. I want to tell you one of my dreams when I was a young girl. It was to stand in front of people and speak and address people. I'm Catholic, so I used to pray about it. So when we had, when the Holy Spirit comes, you know, we used to be told, what do you want God to give you? And I used to say confidence, because I didn't have it, you know? And I know along the way, I did take medicine, because I wanted something to give me confidence. It did help, maybe a little, but the people that I really, really give my thanks and love to are people in my peer support group, you know? People who helped me, people with whom we grew together, you know, and grew and made progress. And now we are here, we tell the world about psychosocial disabilities, leading the talk and talking about things that have happened for us, that have supported us to achieve our dreams. Be they very small dreams, like what I had, but was really big, or even big dreams, you know, to get into a plane and fly to other worlds. So I'm really happy to be taking you through this session. And what we are going to do, it is an open dialogue, where we want to converse with our stakeholders. And you know, the whole day or the past 2 days, we've heard about different words, different terminologies. We've heard about sustainability. We've heard about coalition building. We've heard about investments in community inclusion, you know. We've heard about regional declarations that actually are meant to support community inclusion of people with all disabilities, but now with special focus on people with psychosocial disabilities. And really great that in here we have international organizations that work across borders. So that's a great thing. And so what we are going to do is really just inviting different stakeholders to share with us, you know, what they envision about the future, but also what they are doing currently to involve people with psychosocial disabilities in their programs. And if there are gaps, you know, what we think should happen to ensure that there's meaningful inclusion for all people with disabilities. I hope that gives you a picture of what we intend to achieve for the next few minutes. So what I'll be doing is just calling my guests here, and you have about 5 minutes just to respond to the question that I posed to you, and then moving on like that. And so the first person I'm going to invite is, and apologies about pronunciation of names. I come from, yes, so forgive that. So I'm going to invite Judge Tanyanuk Tantikul, Judge of the Office of the President of the Supreme Court. And the question I want to pose, or the reflection I would love for you to make is, so due to legal incapacity laws, people with psychosocial disabilities face difficulty in accessing justice, okay? So it's an issue that our movements face in many, many countries, not just in Thailand. So as such, what do you think should be the role of judiciary to support movements of people with psychosocial disabilities in accessing justice? And so how is your office specifically doing this in Bangkok or Thailand? Thank you. Please, you can come here. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Well, actually, even though my position is the judge of the Office of the President of the Supreme Court, actually I'm based at the Office of the Judiciary, which is the Central Policy Making and Administration. So I'm not presiding over cases now, but I'm doing the supporting administrative stuff for judges. So to answer your question, what should courts do to accommodate persons with psychosocial disabilities? I would like to begin by give you an overview about what Thai courts have done. I have to be truthful here that, you know, the concept of psychosocial disabilities is very novel to judges here in Thailand. I believe that there are only a handful of judges who actually have heard of the concept, and even much fewer who really understand what it means. And challenging still because psychosocial disabilities are rarely visible, and it can be difficult to understand. So when some behaviors or reactions are expressed, they are most likely to be interpreted to be intentional or as a result of a lack of discipline. So basically, Thai courts are not equipped yet to provide reasonable accommodation, but that's not to say that there's no sign of progress or that courts should play no role. So I would like to put my 2 cents here, and this is the caveat. I am not an expert. I have limited experiences and knowledge in the field of disabilities, and this is my personal opinion alone. But I think that in general, court process is very complex in itself, even to people with no disabilities. And I can't imagine that, it must be twice or thrice as hard for, people with psychosocial disabilities. And apart from the need for legal aid, I believe that they would require an assistance of some sort in communication, both to understand and to be understood. And they may need emotional support, both in terms of a person whom they can seek help, and also like in terms of environment, less intimidating atmosphere on trial or in courtroom or in, like in the areas in the court in general. And, for those in need of assistance, either because of their chronic addiction or because of their mental illness or because of their trauma, they should be able to seek assistance while undergoing court process. And so I think that there should be a spatial unit dedicated to this examination or assessment task, composed of mental health professionals who can do this examination per court order or as requested by parties to litigation, and they should make recommendations as to what adjustments or accommodation or assistance that should be provided. And the court can hold a pre-trial hearing, especially dedicated to specifying the necessary adjustments or assistance that should be provided, like a change of courtroom layout, or a specific time booked for trial for that case, or spatial protocol or rules for witness questioning or cross-examination or other assistance. And if that particular assistance needs to be provided by professionals, so the court should also establish a robust network of partners for timely and effective collaboration. And having a bench book is also a good idea to provide a concrete protocol or guidelines, and having a regular training for judges and court practitioners would also help, especially by exposing trainees to lived experience stories of people with psychosocial disabilities might also help sensitizing them. So I think these can be helpful, but of course I believe that there are plenty more that courts can do, and I would love to hear your suggestions or thoughts on this. Now, about what Thai courts have done so far. Well, I said earlier that we haven't understood much about this area, but we have done something. So over the past few years, we have initiated this design thinking as a process by which we listen to experiences of court users, for making our policies or, tailoring, modifying our policies to accommodate the experience of court users. And because of this project, that we first realized the needs of people with disabilities in general. And because of this, we also organized a workshop specifically for sensitizing judges to this topic of disabilities in general. And but because of the time constraints and budget constraints, we could only focus on physical impairments in that workshop. So we haven't done any project about psychosocial disabilities yet. And as I said, as a concept, the psychosocial disabilities, the social model of disabilities, reasonable accommodation, accessibility, all these concepts are very novel, very relatively unheard of. And we need a lot of training and education for judges, including myself, to be really understanding, to be really empathetic to the cause. And so I believe that overall there are 3 layers of difficulties to drive this agenda forward in the judicial community. First, I believe that we should convince judges that physical disabilities, psychosocial disabilities hinder access to justice, and this is urgent, and this is significant enough that it should warrant the top priority in the judges' to-do list. And we also need to acclimatize judges with all these concepts, social model of disabilities, reasonable accommodation, all these concepts. And we should also inform judges that these concepts have a solid legal ground, because judges are lawyers and they need to follow the law. And third, we need to train judges to be quite comfortable with the nuances and subtleties of the treatments, specifically tailored for each type of psychosocial disabilities, and assistance that need to be provided to the person in need. And so this requires not only just the budget, but also like knowledge-based planning. But unfortunately, I think Thai courts of justice, including the Office of the Judiciary, on which I'm based, are not quite equipped yet. So I believe what we can do at the Office of the Judiciary is first to address this problem of information or knowledge deficit. And once we have enough body of knowledge, we can use it to design strategies to change court practices, to train judges to effectively allocate budget and resources. But most importantly, we can use this knowledge to convince judges of the need for change. And so I think that is all I can say right now. So I conclude. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Please have your seats. Thank you for those reflections. And I'm encouraged because of what we've already started, and having built a body of knowledge on these issues from across different other countries. And then when we call for collaborations, then we're not starting from zero, and we have foundations that we can build on, even as we work with court processes across our different countries. So thank you so much for that intervention. So next I'm going to call Ms. Nantanud, Director of International Cooperation Section, Empowerment Department of Persons with Disabilities, Thailand. Just inviting you to share with us the types of support that persons with disabilities are given, previously or even currently, and especially with a focus on persons with psychosocial disabilities. How are they being supported in Thailand? Welcome.
Okay. Good evening, and thank you so much, the Madam Chair, and also to the TCI board members, and to all of the delegates. So I'm very honored to share our work with you. today. And on behalf of the Department of Empowerment of Persons with Disabilities, Ministry of Social Development and Human Security, so we are the national focal point responsible for any disability issues in the country. And our mission is to promote the rights to access to any rights for persons with disabilities, both in the national and international level. And also, as in the previous session, there's like one speaker said that it's very important to have the law. Like, first of all, we also working on the developed the law, and we also have the dedicated law on persons with disabilities. And now we are on the process of amendment this law in order to be updated, because this law has been used for like almost like 17 years. And of course, for those who have like psychosocial disabilities, we also have we pay importance, right? We want to define, to broaden the definition of person with disabilities by embracing the social model as well, because currently we are rely on mainly on the diagnosis of the doctors, but now hopefully we can gain more social participation and the community judgment, right? And also the second part of our work is for to empower person with disabilities. It's co-aligned with the name of our organization, right? So from the like in the rights to education, the rights to employment, right? And also to encourage them to live independently. Like, for example, in terms of the employment, so we encourage them to work in the both the public and the private sectors. We have the encouraging systems for the employers to get the person with disabilities working with them, or otherwise to use other options, like to provide the trainings or to support the products of person with disabilities. And and recently we also provide the support for the Association of Psychosocial Disabilities in terms of the to do the job coach, right? It is very important for the employers to understand how to employ person with disabilities, in particular for those who have like social psycho disabilities. And also we try to build the capacity of the organization of person with disabilities, right? And we, apart from the national organization, one of which is the Psychosocial Disability, which is the also authorized by our department, and we also work with other local organizations. We are trying to build the capacity for them, like we support them to run the leadership training, or to run in order to get them to know their rights, and also to be their self-advocate, you know, because sometimes there is the rights there, right? The rights and the duties need to go together. Once the rights is there, but no one work on the duties, there is no use, right? So we need to do the duties along with the rights. And this is the work of the government, and for the CSO or the OPDs have to work alike together, okay? And the last thing that we do is to encourage the participation for persons with disabilities in the society. So, and we, as the governmental organization, we have the mechanism from the national level. We have the board committee to work shared by our Prime Minister, and we have the subcommittees in any areas, like in particular types of disabilities. By the way, we have 7 types of disabilities here, and in Thailand, of course, person with psychosocial disabilities is one of them. And also we work in any areas, like the areas of medical care, the area of promoting the anti-discrimination. And also in terms of the area-based, right? We also try to decentralize our authority to the local level. We have the provincial level, we have the board up to the provincial level in every province throughout the country, right? And in the composition of the members of the board, of course, there are persons with disabilities right there. So you see, and also we, apart from this, we are trying to raise an awareness of the society to understand and to open and opportunities for persons with disabilities. So that, and also we're trying to create the accessible, inclusive, and barrier-free society environment, so that these are all work in the consort, right? So these are the 3 main things that our office do. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. And for any questions, reflections, I hope we have time, but for now it's just a moment of just everyone sharing. So please, if you have questions, just keep them, okay, for after. Next, we are going to invite Ms. Aiko Akiyama from the UN Economic and Social Commission for Asia and the Pacific. And the question is this: considering the situation of persons with disabilities in Asia Pacific, how can we strengthen together to address these issues and prioritize the topic of the institutionalization in the light of the Jakarta Declaration? What are some of the commitments you would like to make in supporting the movement? Welcome.
Thank you for the kind introduction and good afternoon. Are you awake? No, yeah, I know. But first of all, congratulations on the birth of TCI women. Okay, so I will put 6 minutes on my alarm and see how I can go better. Okay, so in the spirit of no one left behind, so persons with psychosocial disabilities should be the one that we should be tackling first, actually. But unfortunately, in a lot of UN discourse, member states and even ourselves and then CSO communities tend not to prioritize it. So that's the reality that I would like to share. But I'd like to share my thoughts about how we can collaborate more, or how community like TCI and then all of you can collaborate with us from 3 following perspectives. Number 1, UN as a whole, and number 2, ESCAP, and number 3, person as a person who is passionate about disability rights in general. First, within the UN system, and I'm sure that my following speakers from UNFPA and UNICEF and other people in this audience from the UN can supplement it. But I believe that now it's a good time because, first of all, there is what we call UN Disability Inclusion Strategy, which many of you know, acronym is UNDIS. So, the UN Secretary General asks all UN entities, regardless of the fact that they are working on disability per se or not, mainstream perspectives of disability into their work and engage persons with disabilities into their work in a meaningful way. And that goes to the UN country team. So I really like to encourage all of you to really look into building alliance or partnership with UN country team so that they can mainstream concerns of yourself such as deinstitutionalization or community-based living or inclusive community development. Also, you talk about 3D committees, but also, I mean, we're not just talking about CRPD committee, like somebody said in the morning, it could be other 3D committees, right? And there is a universal periodic review, and there is a Human Rights Council, and then all the recommendations, all the things, which you can, again, capitalize on. So that's a very rough, overview of how UN itself is offering you different platforms. Now, ESCAP is an intergovernmental organization concerning economic and social issues within Asian Pacific, covering 62 members and associate members. So we do not cover Europe, Latin America, and Africa. We are very proud of the fact and owing a lot to a vibrancy of OPD activities in our region. We have been continuing to have what we call regional disability decade, which we call Asian Pacific Decade of Persons with Disabilities. So this is the second year of the fourth decade, which is impressive. I mean, I'm praising myself, but no other region has done it. But it's kind of due to a ESCAP government's commitments and also money, meaning like funding of member states. So because of that, we have been able to do a lot of technical cooperation projects and research projects. But I have to admit, we haven't really done something which is focused on persons with psychosocial disabilities. So I really like to encourage this community pushing us to do something like that. But the good opportunity is that we have what we call working group on the fourth Asian Pacific Decade of Persons with Disabilities, half of whose membership constitute governments. The other half constitute OPDs. And congratulations to TCI. TCI is a member. And we, during the next year's first quarter, during the first quarter of the next year, sorry, my composition in English got messed up there. There is going to be the working group session to be held here in Bangkok. And TCI, of course, is invited. I really like to encourage the TCI member really utilize the platform, and as many people have demonstrated in this forum, really create a narrative change of persons with psychosocial disabilities. Because when I talk to a lot of people about, we include persons with psychosocial disabilities, and they say, oh, you mean like mental health patients? I mean, they automatically translate that in their brain when I talk about it, even amongst the UN ESCAP colleagues. So I really think that narrative change is very important. And Jakarta Declaration, some of you have mentioned, thank you very much, is a document intergovernmentally agreed by our member states, which talks about meaningful participation and also leaving no one behind. And if you go and visit Make the Right Real website, there is an operational guide of Jakarta Declaration, which talks about a lot about persons with psychosocial disabilities, not to the extent that you might be totally satisfied, but we talked about forced sterilization, deinstitutionalization, and so we try to promote this idea for member states and then other stakeholders. But when I talk about, let's work on issues of persons with psychosocial disabilities, I'm not just talking about within the disability discourse and actions. We have to do mainstreaming. So let's say we have a project on disability inclusive business. Well, we also have a project on digital inclusion. or our other divisions at HCAP has a disaster risk reduction section, which with whom we work on disability inclusive disaster risk reduction with ABCD. Then people typically think about, oh yeah, we should invite wheelchair users. This is automatic thinking about things which we really have to change. So I really think it's very important for all of you, again, even at the country level or regional level, to come out and get to know people and then exchange name cards and just, build rapport. Now, last thing, I know that you only have 5 to 6 minutes. As an individual advocate on disability rights, before coming into the UN, I was working in a parliament office as an assistant for a parliamentarian in Japan, and I know it's very hard to even, to tackle with the institutionalization. We say the right thing, you guys say the right thing, but there is a huge wall of vested interest of those who run the mental hospitals or pharmaceutical companies. It's very hard to break the wall because it's been accumulated for years. You need a political power, you need a strategy, you need to find their weaknesses. So what are their weaknesses? Or what kind of argument? Do you just want to say the right thing? Or do you want to have an economic argument of saving cost? So this kind of a strategic thinking is very important. And for that, I think, again, a forum like this is very useful because you need to think about the realistic strategy, not just saying, do the right thing. Because coming from a political activism a little bit, I feel that it's really hard to change the world. It cannot happen overnight. Also, in terms of narrative change, I really think that it's very, very important. And then I really like your advocacy campaign thing, which I didn't know until today, I'm sorry. So I think it's very important to get this kind of thing and the hashtag to be known more, or even like TikTok, stories. I even checked the TikTok and so people's mindset is becoming so what you call it, like moment. We are so scattered. But I also feel that a lot of our policy makers, issues of persons with psychosocial disabilities are political. So many member states would not want to talk about it, right? Because it's more really socialized and social structure, political, whatever. So we also need to convince and put the human story out there and say, hey, nothing to worry about, you can do it, that kind of thing. So again, I think beer is here, right? But the film, convincing film stories or whatever, something like that would be very, very important. So we say here, globally, the UN says 16% of any population in any place are persons with disabilities. But I think, I don't know, I really like to ask you about this population issues, persons with psychosocial disabilities. If you apply broader definition of it, this number can go up. And then this very complex, stressful world. It's not somebody else's issue, it's our issue, right? So I really think that narrative change is important. So this is my 20 cents or whatever. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Maybe more than 20 cents. I think 50 or 60 or 70. Thank you for those reflections, and I think reminding us that there's a lot that needs to be done, and that there are so many gaps that we have to fill, and even seeing that is something that you're discovering about today, also tells us that there's so much, there are media channels, there are people, the countries we need to go to, so a lot that we need to do. So next I'm going to invite Miss Alisa, UNDP. Really great that we have many UN agencies joining us today. It's something that we can also borrow in our side of the world, you know, to ensure that we have this collaboration. Miss Alisa, you're around, you're here? Okay. Okay, okay. All right. So next, would we have Miss Laura Lee from UN Women? Would you come and share some reflections with us? Welcome.
Thank you very much, and I've just spent the last 5 minutes crossing out a lot of my remarks because I'm conscious that we are running very short of time. So, tēnā koutou katoa, I'm Laura Lee Sage. I work with UN Women in the Regional Office for Asia and the Pacific. As you can tell from my accent, I'm from New Zealand originally. And I'm really delighted to be here today. I have a very strong affiliation with TCI in that I feel like part of the team a lot of the time, having worked so closely with the Secretariat and also with some of you in the room today. So I'm going to go through a few remarks that I've pre-prepared, but I want to intersperse these with some ideas that have come to me through the conversations that have happened, but also because of a conversation I just had with Waka, who said to me, you know, we need to think about what we need to do going forward. So I'm going to allocate a little bit of time at the end of the kind of more formal part of my remarks to talk about that. So when I came to the session today, I had to think about what to focus my remarks to you on, and it was very natural to focus on partnerships. So I wanted to tell you a little bit about the importance we attach to partnerships at UN Women. And the reason why we spend so much time talking about partnerships and investing in our partnerships is because we're very much firmly of the view that transformative change is only possible through meaningful and collaborative partnerships. We cannot achieve gender equality and disability inclusion in isolation. That requires a collective effort across sectors, across organisations, and across communities. And it's at this moment that I want to acknowledge the critical work of TCI. Your leadership in building this cross-disability movement and mobilising a movement around Article 19, around deinstitutionalisation and access to justice is commendable, and you've taught me so much. We see partnerships as a really strong foundation for change. And our approach to partnerships is rooted in inclusivity, equity, and shared responsibility. We aim to create spaces where there are diverse voices, especially those from marginalised and invisible groups. They need to be heard, respected, and acted upon. And whether it's through collaboration with OPDs, civil society, government entities, or with the private sector, partnerships are the backbone of our ability to influence policies, drive innovation, and create sustainable solutions. And our partnership with TCI is testament to this. TCI's generous sharing of its knowledge, its expertise, has really strengthened our work. A fantastic example of this is the Closing the Justice Gap project. We were delighted to have TCI's expert advice, and some of the organisations in this room, and I'm thinking I saw Matrika and I've seen Sarah, were really instrumental in a co-produced piece of research where it was very much led by persons with disabilities to deliver a very important legal needs survey. Not only did they deliver it, they co-designed it and helped shape policy recommendations. TCI also generously advised on the resources and knowledge products and arranged a most excellent roundtable in legal capacity, and I want to thank you again for that. I'm going through the crossed out bits now. Just to quickly recognise why TCI's work matches so well with the work of UN Women. And the work of TCI advancing community-led initiatives for inclusion resonates so deeply with us because it really aligns with our vision of empowerment and rights-based approaches. The focus on grassroots empowerment aligns with our belief that true transformation starts within communities, where individuals, families and networks work together to break down these systemic barriers and build more inclusive environments. TCI's approach to engaging communities, particularly through these cross-sectoral partnerships, provides this wonderful model for creating sustainable change. And it really reminds us of the importance of building these systems that not only include but actively value the contributions of everyone. Moving forward, we very much want to continue our collaboration and strengthen our collaboration with TCI and other OPDs. We can amplify the voices of those left behind and accelerate progress together on achieving gender equality and disability inclusion. We can look at things like capacity building, amplifying advocacy efforts, and driving accountability at all levels. Ultimately, it's these partnerships that will help us achieve the vision of 2030 Agenda on Sustainable Development. So, when Wakar said to me at the coffee break that I need to talk about, what should we do going forward, I think that's a really great point. So I want to spend just a couple of minutes talking about that. And the first thing I want to say is that I want to know what you think. Because I think that is the most important thing that I hear from all of you around what is needed moving forward. A few things have come to my mind as I've listened and I've engaged. Things like funding. It's really clear to me that funding is an issue. It's an issue across the board for a number of OPDs, but I'm hearing more and more today that it's a really difficult funding environment, and it's very clear that this is an important area that needs more funding. Building the understanding. Now, one of the recommendations that came out of our Closing the Justice Gap report was about raising the awareness of OPDs and self-advocates. So, and I think that's right, and absolutely that's something that needs to be done, but I also think that there is a need to build the understanding of duty bearers as well. I think there isn't the understanding perhaps that there needs to be around Article 12, around Article 19. How do we actually implement Article 19? I think there's a lot of work to do around that. I think there needs to be an appreciation that your voices belong not just in conversations in these areas on access to justice, on Article 19 and on legal capacity, but actually across the board. Someone said at COSP that it's no longer nothing about us without us, but nothing about us. And I think that rings really true, that we need to see the voices in all forums, whether it's peace, security, climate, DRR, etc. So I want to finish up just on a personal note. Like many of you, Bhagavi had a huge impact on me. So she taught me, she was so patient with me. She spent a lot of time teaching me and deepening my understanding around what community inclusion really means and what's needed to achieve it. And UN Women is on a disability inclusion journey. I'm on a disability inclusion journey. But TCI is and will always remain a really important partner for us on that journey. And I express my heartfelt appreciation to you for continuing to guide us on that journey. So thank you all so much, and I really look forward to hearing your ideas for what's needed going forward.
Thank you so much, reminding us about nothing without us. It's that there's nothing without, persons with disabilities in all their diversities, including persons with psychosocial disabilities. So thank you so much. Ms. Monaya from UNFPA. Welcome. Please share some remarks with us.
Thank you so much, and only 67 more speakers to go. Yeah. So I realized that I'm the only one who had prepared some slides, but if they don't show up. So I wanted to share with you a few things that, oh, thank you. A few things that UNFPA has done. And after that, I wanted to tell you about, so it's about myself. So last year, I came to the regional office, the United Nations Population Fund, and for the first time in my life, I got the portfolio of disability without knowing much about disability. So it has been a really very steep learning curve for me. And I've also, it's good if you're new, and it's also bad. So the bad thing is you think you have these good ideas and you don't think about all the things which have been done before. The good thing is you have this fresh look, because one of the things is I thought the UN says all the right things. Why are we not doing more? So I will tell you about this, so it's a few slides. Maybe we can just quickly go to the next slide. Yeah, so I don't know how many of you know, but there has been really good work done in the regional office. This is the Disability Data Advocacy Workshop for organizations with people with disability. UNFPA has done it with CBM, the International Disability Alliance, the ASEAN Disability Forum, and the Pacific Disability Forum. Maybe the next slide. You can see that this is what it is. It's designed for virtual use. It can also be used in other formats. It has 4 convenient packages. There's a guide for host organizations, facilitators package, and we all know how important data are for programming and for the disability program. The next slide, I just show you, if you go in the site, there are downloadable resources in English and in Spanish, and I really think it's really, really good if we use them more and more. Next slide. So we've also done quite a bit of work on GBV and disability in the Asia-Pacific region. So we all know there's a higher rates of violence against women and girls with disabilities compared to those without disabilities. So in Vietnam, 33% of women experience intimate partner violence, compared to 25% of women without disabilities. In Australia, women with disabilities are twice as likely to experience sexual violence as women without disabilities. And in India, there were 700 women with disabilities who were surveyed, and all of them had experienced domestic violence. So the next slide just quickly shows what some of our work on disability. So we have tip sheets on disability inclusion in GBV programming, disability inclusion assessments, disability training content. So I think it's really, really good if we widely disseminate this and use it. Next. So the last slide about what we've been doing is we also have worked on customized dignity kits for women and girls with disabilities in emergencies, asking women with disabilities what they would need and customizing the kits. And we've worked on midwifery curricula for pregnant women and mothers with disabilities, training midwives to provide quality services to mothers with disabilities. So now I will get to the next slide, which is I was thinking, why? Why are we in UNFPA not doing better? So we had an assessment of the UNDIS, and the challenges is there is limited capacity of the designated disability focal points in our offices. So like me, they're given the portfolio, but they do not have the technical capability. And there's an overwhelming amount of guidance on disability inclusion, and very often, because our staff have other things to take care of, they just disengage. They just don't read. They're not. And there's a lack of capacity to mainstream disability inclusion into our regular programming and our operations. So I think in UNFPA, one of the things that I'm looking at is to do trainings. I mean, to bring heart into the work. So our plans for the future, and this is the next slide, is we will develop a standardized plan for training on disability inclusion, including peer training. And this is where I'm also looking at TCI, because I think really we can learn so much. You can teach us so much. You can train us. We're developing a practice guide to help our country offices to mainstream disability. And we're supporting country offices with expertise in disability inclusion. We don't have this expertise. So we will have to look at experts to help us. And another thing that we're doing is we're mapping the OPDs present in the region and see how we can engage with them. I think it's what Laura Lee was saying. You need to tell us how we can best help you. So one of the other things is innovation. I have the innovation portfolio, and we talk about thinking out of the box. And very much looking at also thinking out of the box. It's getting more difficult to get funding. It's getting more difficult to implement the program. The world is getting more complicated. We need new ideas. And I'm very thankful to ICO for having ICO in one of the events. I learned Heralbony through you. So the next slide is, so Heralbony is a startup, it's a business. Can I have the next slide, please? Yeah, so they are a business. And what they actually do is that they provide a new brand communication by powerful artworks and unique identities of artists with disabilities for enterprises. So what they do is that people with psychosocial disabilities, when they paint, they sort of get the license. I mean, the license stays with the painter, but they take their license and they put it on very, very high level, like bags and other things, and they sell it, and some part of what they sell, they give back to that person. So I think, and if you go to the next, which is my last slide, or the slide before this last, this is what they do. They serve as a bridge. They facilitate collaboration between artists with disabilities and brands, and they have a network of more than 150 artists. And they transform it into products. Currently, they're talking to Louis Vuitton. They have, with Japanese Airlines, they are in contact. So Japanese Airlines, the pouches that they give in first class, they have these paintings of these artists. And I'm dreaming, and I'm talking to Bakar, I'm dreaming about replicating this in other countries of this region. Because I think not only it helps the artist, financially it helps the artist, but it also helps in changing people's perceptions, because these are very, very high level, high quality products. And the story behind this painting comes with the product. So for the future, I think I will be looking at TCI to work with you to find a way to replicate this really great idea. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I know we don't have 60 people now left. We have about 10. Don't be short. We have 4. So roughly about 20 more minutes to go. Okay? All right. So thank you so much. And when you were talking about data, actually, there's one colleague who reflected and said that data often silences persons with psychosocial disabilities. I think it's a very, very deep, thinking, something that we really need to think through, that how does data silence us? Like in my country, I'm actually not counted as a woman with a psychosocial disability, but I identify. So it's many of those challenges that we really have to think together through. Okay, so thank you so much for your reflection. So next I'll call Mrs. Ruth from UNICEF. Please welcome and share your comments with us for 5 minutes.
Thank you, everybody. It's really encouraging to see so many people here after 5 o'clock, and I'm taking it personally, so thank you all. So my name is Ruth O'Connell, and Elizabeth, you were saying when you were little, you wanted to be confident. I wanted to be an astronaut, so I think you were probably a little bit more successful than me in how we did this. So I just want to talk to you a little bit about UNICEF's approach to psychosocial disabilities and MHPSS. So I work in mental health and psychosocial support for the regional office, and UNICEF came to the realization that we needed to move mental health and psychosocial support outside the role of emergencies and child protection where it had been, and to really embed it in a multi-sectoral approach, because we realized that all of the work we do in health, in education, every single touch point We encounter people with disabilities, with psychosocial disabilities, and we need to do better in order to be able to meet everybody's needs in the community. So we have a multi-sectoral approach where every single sector, whether it's in humanitarian response or in development work, we have a responsibility to include people with disabilities, with psychosocial disabilities, and with mental health difficulties, or people who are distressed or just struggling, because we realize also that mental health is a continuum. Different people need different supports at different points in their lives. It's not a static thing. And the community, a holistic lifestyle approach across the life course, from birth all the way up to when you're a caregiver, is what UNICEF focuses on. So our approach is embedded in participation and agency of everybody who comes into contact with our programs. Pregnant adolescents, parenting adolescents, pregnant women, caregivers, children, adolescents. We also firmly believe that the way for us to really look at creating a society that is responsive and flexible and welcoming to everybody is to address stigma and discrimination. And I think for this is why we believe that it's very important to work with teachers. A teacher training curricula, for example, that is something that we believe in very strongly, that we believe in creating a school with a psychosocially supportive environment where there can be no bullying. Well, I mean, there's always going to be bullying, but where we address bullying, where we try and create an environment where peers support each other. So, for example, we have programs called I Support My Friends, which will include and cover issues such as disability, psychosocial disability, and mental health difficulties. We believe that the community is where the services should start, where they should be in the middle, and where they should end. We believe that the small proportion of people who require specialist support should be able to access that freely and without discrimination, but also be able to be supported and have their resilience strengthened in their families, in their schools, and in their workplaces. We obviously are learning from our partners, from organisations for persons with disabilities. And this is really what keeps us grounded in our work, that we want to work with people with lived experience, also in UNICEF itself, because we believe in self-care. You can't pour from an empty cup. You need to be able to look at your own needs. And I think often, and I'm sure you're all the same, often we're all working so hard that sometimes we forget about what we need to keep us on the straight and narrow and to keep us well. We obviously support all of you. I've been listening today to everybody talk about deinstitutionalization, peer support, and capacity building, including with young self-advocates. We work a lot with adolescents, and we have a very strong network of adolescent advocates around East Asia and the Pacific region. And I mean, if they were running the world, I think we'd all be fine. I would just retire. They're fantastic, and I think it's amazing to see the energy and everything that they have. And we also believe very strongly in working again to address stigma and discrimination, and to really bring this participatory approach to life that we have. We believe in working with social behavioural change, and we believe in working really at the community level to listen to people so that we can be guided by the experiences of people. And finally, we want to really take all of this community-based work and try and effect change with advocacy and with policymakers so that we can support adolescents and children particularly to have their voices heard by the decision makers, by the stakeholders, by the teachers, by the parents, and by the community leaders. So that's me. I was delighted to come today and listen and learn, and I hope there'll be other opportunities for me to come and listen and learn and learn and listen. And thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Madam Ruth. So next I'm going to invite Mr. Paul Glick from Rural India Supporting Trust to just respond to this question. What could be the role of funding communities to support and further community-based mental health programs with a purposeful focus on psychosocial disability and inclusion? Welcome.
Hello, thank you everyone. As everyone else has said, I appreciate you staying this late to let everybody have a chance to say their piece. A lot of what was said today was kind of on my list of what to talk about, and it seems like we're really a group that's kind of all on the same page around deinstitutionalization and mental health, wellness. And just, I did want to, because I'm sure nobody has heard of the Rural India Supporting Trust, so just to briefly tell you, we are a family philanthropic foundation focusing on grant giving in India. And we focus on many different sectors: environment, health, some education work, and then our disability portfolio. So as a funder, the first thing that I can say is that, and you know, again, what other people have already said, is that partnerships are very important. I also am not a disability specialist or professional. I'm an international development person, and you know, got into this foundation about 10 years ago, and also had quite a learning curve in order to understand this sector and try to make sure that we were funding organizations that were doing the right thing and doing no harm. And it was through these partnerships and understanding others that we started to come up with our strategy. And I will say that you know, I found out about TCI through one of our partners, through the Bapu Trust, and it was working with them and some of our other partners where we basically came up with what we felt was the way we needed to go in order to, quote unquote, do the right thing in our eyes. So, like I said, we basically have two different pathways. One is what we would say is kind of a preventive measure, which would be focusing on mentally healthy societies in general. And then there's the more specific subject of deinstitutionalization. And, you know, within both, really, our guide is, you know, from one of our other partners. It's something called social role valorization, which I'm sure many of you have already heard of. But for me to make it kind of as simplistic as I can for somebody like me, I used to think of it as, how do we make people be more kind? You know, how do we make people think about others more? You know, the idea of assisting people with disabilities and other devalued conditions to have positive social roles and equal opportunity. We need to understand why certain groups of people become devalued in society, and risk supports programs that work towards reversing this devaluation and promoting equity in all aspects of life. We support organizations that want to create a national movement in India. I did forget to mention that. I figured the Rural India Supporting Trust, but yes, we only do give grants for organizations doing work in India. Anyway, and that, you know, people with disabilities have opportunities to step into these valued roles and access the good things in life, while ensuring that supportive services are available and affordable. I feel that, you know, especially those who have the responsibility of providing funding to other organizations, especially in this particular circumstance, there has to be some sort of ethical guidance in all of this. And we align ourselves with organizations that have a mindset of inclusion in its purest form. The speaker before me is the first one I heard discuss stigma, which was a little surprising actually throughout the day that I didn't hear that. But SRV is imperative to working on stigma, and I think that's also a huge part of us being able to you know, work towards a really inclusive society. So, you know, as far as deinstitutionalization goes, it's huge. You know, we found that it's almost an overwhelming issue. You're talking about, in India specifically, you're talking about, you know, changing an entire government system that's been running the way it's currently running for a long time. So again, through our partners, we've come up with certain steps, I guess you could call them, that kind of encompass what we try to do to deinstitutionalize India. And of course, the first step is to try to get people back with their families. So family reunification is really always our first step. And we want to work with organizations that can perform these background checks, do research, be able to work with the government. So you have to have good inroads with the government. Be able to consult and support the families with services and/or finances if somebody is placed back with their family. And of course, there are those hurdles, is that families living in poverty sometimes might want to take the person back, but economically they can't do it. And then at times legal processes can be lengthy and expensive. So we need organizations that can be able to position themselves to assist families. And then there's, what we call community homes. And there was, mention earlier about the last thing that we want to do is to just create smaller institutions. That is definitely not the intention. And what we're hoping for is that basically what I just said earlier about the SRV stuff is that the organizations that we work with are with the understanding that the homes that we create are to be fully inclusive. And I think that we've been relatively successful in doing that. And so inclusive supporting living is what we call it. Each community home has unique components to them, depending on the residents. Classically, we have about 5 to 8 people that move into these homes that are in communities. It's not easy to find the homes for people to live in, but we work with the communities so that they know that people are moving into this home, and we want the community to also be supportive. And that's another key, obviously, is that everything about this is all community-based. It has to be. Things can't be forced upon people, and then you can expect it to just be successful. The residents of these homes become part of their communities and interact with their neighbors just like anybody else. Of course, there are hurdles with this as well. A lot of times we have landlords that increase the prices of the homes because of the quote-unquote people that are moving in there. There's also issues sometimes of retrofitting the homes. So you have issues at times with finding a home where we can actually place everybody that needs to be placed. And all of our homes, just to say, do have supportive services if need be, depending on the individuals that live there. We've also started to work on independent living, as many people have also talked about. It's relatively new for us, but to assist people to leave the institution and we just help them to find a home and give them support if they need it. But they're living on their own, just in a community again, just like everybody else. And some of the things that we have found that we definitely need more of within, it's more of like components to our community homework, is the training of long-term care professionals, advocacy for better wages, and working to enhance the public's attitude on the importance of this role is a necessity. Again, this goes back to this goes back to the caring, and having the people who are doing these jobs understand the importance of the job that they're doing. And then, as was also discussed, supportive employment. We found this to be one of the really difficult areas for us, is getting employers in the communities to hire the residents in our homes. But we're working on trainings, we're working with employers to retrofit sometimes their businesses and things like that. And then, again, just another mention of stigma, advocacy and campaigns. In order for any of the above to happen at scale, the stigma around people with disabilities needs to be addressed. And And just another important thing about the economics of it all is that we realize that we definitely can't do this alone. The community homes programs are it's a long-term commitment. It's literally the lifetime of the people that we take out of the institution. So we've found, unfortunately, there aren't a lot of funders that are willing to get involved in this, but we're always looking for organizations that are willing to partner up with us and create networks so that we can expand our work. Time is short, so I'll just wrap it up and just lastly say that, getting involved with TCI, I feel, is going to be something very important for RIST as an organization, just because of the wealth of knowledge and for us to understand how to do the work that we're doing better, and to ensure that we're doing justice for all of the people that we are trying to assist. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Paul, and apologies, we had to cut you short. I know time is running, so thank you also everyone for your patience. We are almost there. So I welcome Ms. Zain Ma from Humanity and Inclusion. Please come and share some remarks with us. Thank you.
Hi everyone, good evening. I am Zimar, and I would like to share some of the activities, approach, and what we are doing as an HI. HI stands for Humanity and Inclusion, and lastly, we call Handicap International, and then we changed the name to Humanity and Inclusion. So actually, we are implementing over 66 countries around the world. And as a technical status, we have the inclusive education, rehabilitation, UIE, explosive ordinance risk education, and DSI, disability social inclusion, and inclusive health. And inclusive health, we have non-communicable disease, MHPSS, mental health and psychosocial support, and SIHR, sexual reproductive health and rights we have. But we are not implementing all of the technical status in the same countries. Across the countries, we have different projects. In Thailand, we have rehabilitation, DSI, MHPSS, and UIE. So our target is to be inclusive or person with disabilities and their caregivers to be accessible, community-based integrated services. So our target area are refugee camps, 9 refugee camps, and the cross-border area across the Myanmar and Thailand cross-border areas. We are implementing in these areas. And as an MHPSS center, started growing 2000, and yearly growing from yearly, and now we have the holding the approach of GAD, gender, age, disability approach, and community-based approach and inclusive approach. And as HI in Thailand and Myanmar, we are only providing the services, 3 layers of MHPSS pyramid. We are not providing the specialized MHPSS services in Thailand and Myanmar. We only providing 3 layers of MHPSS services, community-based, basis, and specialized non-focused services we providing. And in the refugee camps and in cross-border areas, we found that major psychosocial concerns are discrimination, stigma, and safety concerns, and uncertain future, and the loss of hopes, and stress, depression, trauma, and substance-related issues, and mostly they're suffering suicidal attempts, suicidal ideations, and these are common cases and issues. We found that. So as an approach, and we designed the projects to be integrated. For example, as a donor UNHCR, we designed the projects to be integrated of all the status, including MHPSS, rehab, DSI. We are doing like that. So basically, we aim to be inclusive of persons with disabilities in all stages of project implementations, need assessments, capacity buildings. We are mobilizing with the community mobilizing approach. So providing capacity building to the community workers, camp-based staff, and also local partner as well. And also we provide the activities like massive awareness campaign, community awareness raising, and lay counseling, peer support, recreational group activities, and referral support. We are providing these kinds of activities. And we make sure in all phases of project target to be integrated, all of the sectors, and to be inclusive of persons with disabilities and their caregivers. So in Thailand and Myanmar, MHBSS are not standalone projects and as integrated projects. So as HI, our core values is humanity, inclusion, commitment, and integration. So we make sure inclusion, and also we strengthen the collaboration with international organizations like MSF, IRC, and other local organizations. We are collaborating and working together, and also to be accessible, community-based, integrated MHBSS services. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I know we have to rush. Yeah, it always happens, but that is where we are. So next, I'm going to invite Mr. Somchai from Asia Pacific Development Center on Disability. Welcome.
Thank you so much. So I'm the last speaker. Thank you to be with me until the last minute. APCD stands for Asia Pacific Development Center on Disability. And we are thanks to TCI to invite us and count us as a partner of the TCI, partners of the movement of person with psychosocial disability. So we are proud on this point. And we have to be short, not over than 5 minutes. We have 3 main programs to implement. The first one is the networking and collaboration. Second is the capacity development. And lastly is the information and knowledge management. And we work on 4 main approaches. One is the community-based inclusive development. Second one is the disability inclusive sport. Next is the disability inclusive business or inclusive employment. And the last is the disability inclusive disaster risk reduction. As Aiko mentioned, we work with ESCAP as well. So we also plan to start the inclusive art next year. And we please visit our website, APCD Foundation. We also can offer some training online and in person on disability equality training. And some of the participants, so far we have participants from Africa and also South America, come online training of disability equality training. So for the TCI and movement of person with psychosocial disability, OPD of person with psychosocial disability, please consider how we can have a mutual collaboration. We are willing, we are glad to discuss and flexible to collaborate. And lastly, in last September, APCD and Disabled People International Korea and also Thai government Department of Empowerment of Persons with Disability, we organized the training at the Seoul, Korea, and we also invite some participants from TCI to join as the participant of the young leader, young women with disability for CRPD training. So this is all from APCD. So we are open 24 hours for collaboration with all of you. Thank you so much.
I can see smiles. We really want to finish, right? We are finishing in 3 minutes. So I'm inviting Chris for just a minute. And as Chris speaks, Robina will be coming to give us a vote of thanks and close the meeting. So Chris, welcome. As Robina, you prepare.
Thank you. So when I did my presentation, we did an interactive exercise about what it was that was needed to facilitate inclusion in OPDs and nationally. And we collected the everybody's points, and I made a word cloud out of them for you to enjoy and appreciate, and I'm hoping that it's going to be projected onto the screen. Maybe? So what we were, what the point was here it is. So you won't be able to read all of them because some of them are very small, and I'll just read a couple of the very small ones, which monitor the state's parties who ratified, peer support, challenges exclusion, storytelling. Lots of storytelling empowers, legal challenges and legal advocacy, empowerment of disaster management for persons with psychosocial disabilities, and employment equity, and the others you can read. Thank you very much.
So my time here is finished, and thank you so much. Thank you so much. Robina, welcome to offer us your closing remarks. Then we can go and have a group photo outside.
Okay. Yes. The outgoing of the morning is made to rejoice, and the evening is also made to rejoice. So, just like everyone is feeling, I'm also overwhelmed with the love, commitment, togetherness, that unity of purpose. You know, as different people were coming here, I really want to say, as TCI-Global team from around the world, as you saw us in our diversities, we are all very grateful to you all. And we want to say, you know, in TCI we share love. We want to say that we love and treasure each one of you here. And we appreciate your precious time that you've really shared with us. We will never be the same. We are going from strength to strength, from faith to faith, glory to glory. So, thank you so much. Please take our love, our greetings to your families, to the colleagues that you work with, plan and program with, and share with them our stories, and feel free to share the things that we've talked about here so that we may be able to all enjoy a community, an inclusive community where everyone enjoys liberty,
peace, joy, sharing the resources together. Words may not express, but I just want to say thank you. Webale, asante. You can say it in your own language, you know? Yes, can we, each one of us, mention the word thank you in your own language? Webale. Tweyanziza. Have safe journeys. Thank you. And now we are going for the group photo. Where? Here. Here? Okay.
Can we request everybody to gather here in the front? Quickly. Just here. Sabko settle karao. In the front, in the front. I know it is a difficult task, but let's manage something. And it is also an important agenda point. Ishani. Thank you, Yuhei. Just try to fix ourselves. I will WhatsApp you. You can come a bit here. Somewhere. No space for me.